Hey guys, so this is the first in what I hope to be kind of a regular thing for me. It looks different than my other videos, but this is going to be a series where I get nerdy about specific labs that I really like, that I use in my practice, and kind of walk you through them. It's going to be fast paced, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but it'll give you a good sense of the kind of labs that I run and why I think that they are so important. And if you've been following me at all, you've probably heard me talk about the wheat zoomer. It really is, in my opinion, the gold standard for screening for wheat and gluten related disorders, intestinal permeability, celiac disease, and gluten related autoimmunity. It's called the wheat zoomer test, and it is made by Vibrant Wellness Laboratories. So we're actually going to be looking at test results from one of my real clients, and I'm going to walk you through that. But first, let's talk about who should run the wheat zoomer. So wheat and gluten impact the entire body. Really, there's no organ or tissue that can go unaffected by negative results of being gluten and wheat sensitive. So the symptoms are really varied. So any GI symptoms at all, so gas, bloating, diarrhea, abdominal pain, that kind of stuff, definitely get tested. Irritable bowel syndrome, if you have migraines or chronic headaches, anxiety, panic, depression, if you run chronically low in vitamin D, that could be a red flag. Also, any skin issues, so eczema, psoriasis, rosacea, hives, and even those little bumps on like the back of the forearms that we call chicken skin, that could also be an issue. If you've been diagnosed with osteoporosis or osteopenia, particularly at an earlier age than is typical, get tested. Now, because wheat and gluten impact the central nervous system pretty significantly, it can show up as numbness or tingling of the extremity. So that's hands, feet, arms, legs, okay? If you have a history of unexplained miscarriages or unexplained fertility issues, get tested. Any chronic joint pain, if you tend to run anemic, if you've had a history of learning difficulties or had a history of a failure to thrive, like you were always the shortest kid in the class and didn't really develop at the rate of your peers, any diagnosis of ADD or ADHD, if you struggle with persistent fatigue, and also, this is super important, if you have any autoimmune diagnosis whatsoever. So if you've been diagnosed with Hashimoto's or psoriasis, scleroderma, rheumatoid arthritis, type 1 diabetes, multiple sclerosis, I mean, really any autoimmune disease at all, that is a reason to run the wheat zoomer. Now, again, this is not a comprehensive list, but it's a pretty decent start. Okay, so let's actually look at the parts of the wheat zoomer. So the wheat zoomer is split into several different panels. And the first thing we look at is the panels related to celiac disease. So we have the celiac panel, and then we have what I call the fusion peptide panel. What it's actually called is the tissue transglutaminase deamidated gliadin complex panel, but that's a mouthful. So I just call it the fusion peptide panel. Now, the celiac genetics don't come with the wheat zoomer automatically, but you can ask for them for an additional $99. These three panels together give us a really good assessment of your risk for celiac disease. So they can answer questions like, hey, do you have celiac disease right now? Or maybe you don't have full-blown celiac disease, but you're on your way to developing it. So if you're going to develop it in the next 5 to 7 years, this test can pick that up. Also, if you have one or both of the genes for celiac disease, that is also that increases your risk factor for developing at some point in your life pretty significantly. So these three things together really give us a comprehensive sense of what your unique risk factor is for celiac disease. Okay, then we have the gluten-related autoimmunity panels, and that's the wheat germ panel and the transglutaminase panel. Now, why wheat germ? Well, wheat germ it's a lectin, it's the lectin of wheat, and when it gets into the bloodstream, it can travel to practically every tissue in the body and attach to it, and which provokes an immune response and can create the onset of autoimmune disease. So if you have reactions to wheat germ, chances are your risk for autoimmune disease has gone up, and maybe you already have one, but you haven't been diagnosed with it yet because the symptoms haven't emerged yet. But you can see this client here definitely is sensitive to wheat germ, and that tells me it's gotten through her gut lining and into her bloodstream. Then we have the transglutaminase panel. The transglutaminase 3 and 6, these correlate with autoimmune issues of the skin and of the brain. So if there's any reaction on this panel, that can be an indicator that you might have a weak link in your brain or in your skin system that will ultimately lead to an autoimmune issue. All right. So next we look at intestinal permeability. So the wheat zoomer is awesome because it gives us several intestinal permeability markers. We see actual levels of zonulin, and you probably know, if you've been listening to me, that zonulin rises in the presence of gluten. So it's good to get a reading of what your actual levels are. But beyond that, we are also looking at antibodies to zonulin, antibodies to actin, and antibodies to lipopolysaccharides. So these three things together can tell us, do you have damage of the tight junctions in the small intestine? Do you have damage of the actual epithelial cells, cellular damage? And do you have leaky gut due to bacterial toxins, which are those lipopolysaccharides? These are three different ways that leaky gut can manifest. So looking at all these three markers together can not only give us a sense of how leaky your gut is, but kind of why and how it's leaky, okay? Okay, then we have the gluten panels. So gluten is this really big protein, and it breaks down into smaller pieces. And to accurately identify gluten sensitivity, we have to look at reactions to all of the pieces of gluten. It's not enough to look at the whole gluten protein. That's not going to get the job done. We have to break the gluten down into its little puzzle pieces and see what your immune system thinks about those. So you can see here, there's a lot of different puzzle pieces, right? We have alpha gliadin, alpha beta gliadin, gamma gliadin, omega gliadin, proteomorphin, gluteomorphin, and then we have the high molecular weight and low molecular weight gluteinins. All of these puzzle pieces together combine to make up the total gluten protein. Now, the problem with most conventional labs out there is they're primarily looking at just the alpha gliadin puzzle piece, right? So that's just one. So what if you aren't reacting to that, but you're reacting to the gamma and the omega and the gluteinins? Well, then that lab test you're taking is going to totally miss your gluten sensitivity, okay? All right, then the final thing that we look at are the non-gluten peptides of wheat. These are proteins in the wheat that can also be problematic for your immune system, create food sensitivity or wheat sensitivity, okay? Now, 90% of people who are sensitive to the gluten peptides are also sensitive to the non-gluten peptides. This is really important because it's not enough to just eliminate gluten from your life in that case, right? You also have to be very mindful to eliminate wheat. Wheat shows up pretty significantly in our personal care products. And by the way, it also shows up in some certified gluten-free products. And I'm thinking of all those, green powders out there that have wheatgrass and barley grass in them. Well, those green powders can be certified gluten-free because the gluten has been extracted, but they still contain wheat. You cannot take these wheat proteins out of the wheatgrass. You just can't do it. So this is really important information for you to have. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up with some concerning statistics, and hopefully it'll motivate you to investigate getting yourself screened with the wheat zoomer. So the first statistic I want to talk about is celiac disease. Now, conventional medicine assesses that 1% of the population has celiac disease, but there's a problem with that statistic because it's also estimated that the vast majority of people with celiac disease go undiagnosed and misdiagnosed. That's 83% of the people walking around out there with celiac disease don't know it. That's really concerning. But the statistics for gluten sensitivity aren't any better. So research suggests that up to a third of the US population may be gluten sensitive. Huge warning here. Undiagnosed gluten sensitivity occurs at 10 times the rate as undiagnosed celiac disease. So the next time you're out to dinner with your two besties, just take a moment, look around the table and ask yourself, do you feel lucky? Because chances are one of you has gluten sensitivity and you don't know it. So, okay, guys, I hope that's been valuable for you. I hope you've enjoyed walking through the Wheat Zoomer with me. Please let me know in the comments, do you like this? Would you like to see more videos like this where I kind of give you an overview of different labs that I use in my practice? If you have questions about the Wheat Zoomer specifically, drop them in the comments. I will do my best to answer them. If there's any lab that you're super curious about, let me know. If you want me to do a video on a particular lab, happy to do it if it's one that I'm familiar with. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. You want to find me, just hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can find me at Whitney Morgan Nutrition, which is also my website, whitneymorgannutrition.com. I'll see you next time. Bye.